We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Wide for Some Soccer. My name is Seth Vertelny. Alongside me this evening, Pablo Maurer, Thomas Floyd. Guys, we are jam-packed tonight. Big show, big show. I think we only have time for maybe 5 or 6 rounds of 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhinos.
What? I practiced all week.
Okay, 7 or 8 tops.
It's been a massive outpouring of support for 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhinos. I don't know if you guys have noticed that or not.
Are we
A lot
sure
of
they
people on
aren't being
Twitter-
sarcastic?
I'm pretty sure they enjoy it. I don't know.
I think those are the only people that like it, the ones that are really supporting it. I think everybody else is just kind of wondering why we spend time during the show doing this.
It's completely possible.
So like I said, big show. I mean, we got DC United, we got hashtag USMNT, we got MLS,
If Harambe, as always.
the search for justice for Harambe. We have several voicemails. I think this is the first show we've ever had more than one.
Yeah, we do have the voicemails if you want to call in, obviously. 708-LT-OWFSS. Talk about whatever, MLS, U.S. national team, DC United, Red Bulls. Just, I think that's actually all we can talk about. So I don't want to say anything, but you know.
I also forgot to mention we have the triumphant return of former Gothamist great Dan Dickinson.
Dan, would you call it triumphant or not?
I wouldn't call it former grade either, but, you know, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Dan, obviously an honorary member of the Open Wide for Some Soccer team who, I want to say had a nervous breakdown last year or something like that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Forced out of a soccer scene by some sort of, I don't know. Whatever, I got nothing. How you been, Dan?
I've been all right. It's retirement's been treating me well. Some people are always stunned to hear that I have not been to an MLS stadium this year.
What? Yeah,
Which,
I mean,
seriously,
I'm not
haven't
stunned,
gone to
but
a
I figured you'd go to a
single
Red Bulls game or something.
Yeah. So, yeah, life's been good.
Does Katie still go?
No,
Katie
she
Bacon's wife.
dropped her season ticket too. So, we're actually having a normal life now, where we see friends and have free time.
Sounds terrible.
I know.
Stress
I know.
level way down. You know, are you still obsessing over like the minutia of the MLS roster rules and regulation? I mean, has that ended, or are you still doing that?
It feels like it hasn't changed that much this year, so I think I'm still reasonably up on it, and occasionally I will get random Twitter strangers asking me to explain something.
Yeah.
My favorite questions have been about the Audi Player Index,
Yeah.
which just launched this year, and you know I love that player index because this is highly precise statistical content that you can use to make really good analysis about player performance. You guys know how to use it, right? You
Have you been talking to
the
somebody?
memo from Don.
Have you been talking to somebody at the league with that line, or?
Yeah,
Dan,
you know, I still get the Garber PR emails, right?
Dan and I were talking about this earlier in the week. I think Dan has some light to shed on the.
Well,
I know
I
Audi
see everybody confused because they're like, I look at the MLS app and I just see a bunch of numbers, and what does it mean? And so let's take DC United's win over the Fire. What was that, Saturday night? I don't.
It feels like years ago.
Yeah. Well, so okay, if you drill down in your app, you'll see that Patrick Mullins got 1,800 points. Now there's some details in there about individual statistics. You know, he had 4 out of plays conceded. I wasn't aware that out of plays were a soccer thing, but I am now. You know, he conceded a goal from outside the box according to the player index. You can ignore the individual lines. Just focus on the 1,800 points. Patrick Mullins equals 1,800. Make sense?
No.
Now, and then you look further down the list and you'll see David Accam, and he had 300 points. Again, don't get hung up on how he lost 3 take-ons, whatever a take-on is.
Probably generous.
Probably. 300 points. So it's simple division. Patrick Mullins is worth 6 David Accams.
Well,
I think most MLS general. Well, I don't know. Com is like the only fires. Only. You know what? Don't ask any questions. Actually.
No, I mean you don't want to. We'll do one more just to make sure this takes. So, let's say you want to compare players for a post-match game or whatever. Let's take Orlando NYCFC. So, Tommy McNamara, who we all know was performing his best for Jurgen Klinsmann last night, came in at a somewhat respectable 332 points. David Villa only somehow managed 63 points. I'm guessing it was the headband. So we do a little subtraction. There's a difference between the two of 279. Andrea Pirlo managed to score 264. So there's your narrative for your match report. You would just write it up as Thomas McNamara was just over one Andrea Pirlo better than David Villa on the night.
I can't argue with that, honestly.
Dan, it's too bad that you've retired because I would really like to read your match reports for Gothamist this year.
Yeah, I actually worked for Audi for about 2 years as a mechanic,
and also developing the player index.
Yeah, exactly. It was a shadow thing that I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, the mechanic thing was just a cover. And if they're half as bad at soccer analytics as they are at building cars, then I think we're pretty much fucked. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Anyways,
so should we get in?
You'll be getting served tomorrow.
Yeah, let's talk some DC United. And Dan, even though you haven't watched soccer in 2.5 years or something, feel free to chime in whenever you want.
Was the Chicago Fire playing soccer? I feel like I could have watched this.
Well, if you listen to Panovich, their coach, after the game, they played a great game.
Really?
Yeah, he really said that he actually the first sentence was, you know what, you guys talk and let me pull up his quote because it was really pretty golden.
Yeah. So DC United defeat Chicago 6-2 in a game where the team that scored 2 goals, their head coach apparently thought they played well. Yes. It's interesting, but I guess. From DC United's perspective, the thing that you really have to wonder about is how much you can really read into a result like this. There were a lot of positive performances, particularly on the offensive end, but this was a home game against the worst team in the league that has won 1 game away in the last 2 years, and also Chicago was reduced to 10 men for 2/3 of this game, thanks to probably the dumbest red card I've ever seen in my life.
So I want to clarify, you aren't allowed to pick up the ball and throw it at the face of the player you just fouled from like 2 feet away from him.
I like to think that he knew, too, that Nyarko has had 5 concussions since 2009.
Yeah.
So it was such a bizarre decision for so many reasons.
Dude, he's been a butcher all year, too.
Yeah,
he basically broke someone's leg almost, right?
Like, we're speaking of Thiam from Chicago.
Yes.
By the way, Panovich just said, I think our guys did our best, and I want to congratulate them on that. Then also said that it's a hard loss, it is, but we learn from our mistakes. We believe that a team in this process of becoming a champion has to lose games like this. It happens to everyone. He said that, but in more of like a Rocky IV tone.
Everyone concedes 6 goals in a game at some point.
And then he went on to say that he said that we want to, here at the Chicago Fire, we want to win every game. And then he looked at the I guess it was like 2 people in the audience at RFK, and he said, I want you to write that. We want to win all our games here. I mean, it's just, things are dark, I think, until you're at a park.
Bizarre.
That was pretty. I'll say this, Panovich, a lot of his rhetoric this season, I hear it. I'm like, all right, this is a guy with a vision. This is a guy who, has a plan, and maybe in a couple of years there'll be something. But this, to me, is taking that a little too far. The optimism, they played a terrible game, and they went down to 10 men, but you can still, grind out the result. And apparently,
he said, and I quote, "There's no beauty in not going for it when you're down 3-2," and I appreciate that. Anytime I hear an MLS coach say the word beauty, which is like once every 5 years, I get excited. I don't know. Anyways,
so the highlight of this game, clearly from a DC perspective, was Patrick Mullins scoring 3 goals. And incredibly taking the DC United taking the United season lead in goals, despite having only been with the club for a month.
Who did this 2 years ago?
Own goal?
No, somebody. It was a midseason pickup in 2013, right? Who very quickly became the team leader in goals.
I want to say it was Silva.
Yeah, exactly. He was around for 2 games and was a team leader in goals.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that. To be fair, that was the season that own goal in fact led the team. So
why don't we go to the voicemail box here? Because Amir from Maryland had a question about Mullins' performance. Let's see here.
Hey, this is Amir from Maryland.
Hi, Amir.
After seeing Sir Pablo Maurer in person, I felt the spirit of Harambe once again, and I was so moved. But just want to get your thoughts on the new Acosta and Mullins partnership, which I think is blossoming into something fantastic. And also want to start a petition to replace all the United chants with the word Harambe instead of United.
It actually works really well, syllable-wise. Vamos Harambe. So embarrassed to even do a United chant, even substituting another word for it.
yes, Pablo, you will need to turn in your credential.
Let's gladly. Let's talk about Acosta and Patrick Mullins. Acosta being a guy who, honestly, nobody on DC United this year has really learned how to play with, and he and Mullins have sort of become fast friends, I guess.
Yeah, I'll say, Sabo had some chemistry with him earlier this year, but Sabo's not a guy at this point in his career who you want playing 90 minutes a game. So that was never a duo that was really going to last.
Well, it was only a couple shows ago where we were talking about how there were a couple moments every game where Acosta has a through ball or a long pass, and it seems like the person he's passing it to just isn't quite on the same wavelength with him. Maybe Acosta is thinking a step ahead, and because of that, the pass doesn't connect. And maybe with a guy like Mullins, who really has the instincts of a number 9, makes those runs more than any other player on DC United, Acosta finally has someone he can connect with, and we saw that on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
I think you saw it on the second goal where he combined with Acosta. Chicago coughs the ball up just outside the 18. Mullins immediately turns and makes that run. Mm-hmm. And also on his third goal, when he combined with Franklin, it was perfectly timed, just a little redirect. So I think there's a savviness there that's been missing in United's other sort of attacking pieces this year.
I feel like Mullins in general, since he's been in MLS, hasn't quite gotten the full credit that he deserves for being a complete striker. I feel like he's been perceived as sort of your standard college goal poacher who didn't really have the skill set to thrive at the next level. That certainly was the knock on him going into the draft when he dropped all the way down to number 11 or so. And you watch him play, I mean, he's got a decent burst. I wouldn't say he's particularly fast, but he has that burst. He's a little bigger than you realize. He's a good target on set pieces, and he's really clever. He works well with Acosta. We saw it on the assist he had, not this past weekend, but the match before, I believe, when he had that scoop pass. I guess that was against the Timbers. And they're just two players who I think have a lot of chemistry at this point, and it says a lot about the fact that Mullins isn't just a striker who is going to drift in and out of games, but maybe score goals for you. He is going to do that. He'll get the goals, but he also can be a complete player. He can do the hold-up play. He can make runs in behind. He can distribute the ball well. He's really been a good pickup for DC, and I think we're seeing Acosta capitalize on that.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Doyle, MLS analyst on Twitter, pointed this out last night that if you look at expected goals and assists per 90, Mullins is sort of in the same neighborhood as Robbie Keane, Diego Valeri, and way ahead of guys like Drogba and Kai Kamara, who've obviously had off years. But still, it's one of those things where you just, it's a little bit like Jack McInerney, right? If you look at goals per 90 and chances created per 90, Jack McInerney actually has a pretty good chance at becoming the MLS all-time leading goal scorer by the end of his career. And he's a guy that, I'm serious, and he's a guy that just isn't talked about in the way that you talk about Robbie Keane or something like that, but he's sort of on pace with him as far as chances created and goals.
We have a really interesting question here from Alex Brodsky on Twitter. Over under number of current Fire players that will wind up with DC United someday. He suggests 3.5.
Because right now they've got Igbananike, Niarco, Rolf. Anyone else? I think that those are.
I was really impressed by Kali Tiam.
I could see him. Michael Stevens seems like a guy that is really likely to end up with DC United at some point in the future.
By the way, poor Sean Johnson. Just
well,
from U.S. international prospect to, just...
Maybe Sean Johnson will be Bill Hamid's replacement when he goes to Europe.
Trying to think of who else DC could get. Yeah, Mikey Stevens is a good shout.
So, speaking of
Jonathan Campbell in like 7 years.
Right.
I'm already tired of talking about the Fire. So, I don't know if you guys noticed this when in post game, I'd asked Ben about Mullins, and he sort of very, very quickly deflected. He said, yeah, he had a good game, but we were blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. Sort of didn't want to lay praise on him. What'd you guys make of that?
Well, I think we've seen this before from Olsen, where a player on DC United will have a really, really good game, and he'll get asked about it in the press conference, and he has an opportunity to kind of lavish praise on them, and instead he is restrained. And clearly this is some sort of a strategic move by Olsen, where he believes that it's better, the player is better served if he doesn't get a big head. Whether he gets a big head from praise from Olsen from one game, who knows, but I think he just thinks it's better for the player to stay grounded and stay focused.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's in line with Benny's thinking. And the funny thing is, he did have a little bit of praise, and he said Mullins is very predictable, which doesn't really sound like a compliment. And then seconds later, Bobby Boswell praised Mullins for basically being a player where you never know what he's going to do. So apparently DC United is not entirely sure what makes Mullins so good, but whatever it is, it's working.
He's predictably unpredictable.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, that's right.
Definitely forgot you were there.
Dan's on the show. Holy.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, guys.
Hey, DC United faithful.
You know what? I think that's sort of one of the common knocks from DC United's players, if you ask them about Fabian Espindola, was that he was hard to play with because you did not know all the things that made him dangerous, say when he was at RSL or in his first year at United. His unpredictability, can drift wide, cut inside. All those things are maddening to a lot of other players in the field who just want to feed him the ball.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that because, in a sense, Mullins was Espindola's replacement. It wasn't a straight swap, but the deals came within a few days of each other, and Mullins took that spot in the starting lineup that Espindola had been occupying earlier in the year. And I think, now that you mention it, I definitely think that's the subtext to Olsen's comment that they had gotten used to having to deal with the unpredictability of Espindola, and that Mullins is a breath of fresh air at this point.
Fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should also mention, once again, Steve Birnbaum really getting involved on the attacking end, specifically on set pieces, led to another DC United goal. I believe it was their fourth of the game.
And he also tested Johnson a couple times. Yeah,
it's something I've noticed league-wide is that I just don't think the coaching staff puts a lot of people just need to watch more film, I think.
Chicago's set-piece marking in this game was so awful, I
how
couldn't
do you not
even
know?
comprehend
There's literally one guy you have to guard.
Yeah.
Right? There's nobody else on United who has the ups or the intelligence to get on the end of a corner kick.
Did you just call the whole team stupid?
Yeah, probably.
Well, it's got to the point now where pretty much every free kick and every corner kick is going to Birnbaum.
Well, that's like I watch, sadly watch a lot of NYCFC games, and it's one of those things where they've found Davi Villa at the back post on a corner kick literally 5-6 times. He's converted 2 or 3 of them. I just don't get why teams don't see this sort of shit. That's easy to spot if you're just a fan watching a game.
Well, it's one thing to see it, but maybe teams just don't have somebody who can stop Birnbaum. I mean, he is one of the top players in the league in the air.
Yeah.
I will point out that, Birnbaum's always been good in the air, but he wasn't getting on the set pieces with this regularity.
No, he was in college.
Well, yes, but in his time with DC until, the last few months, I think. And I wonder how much of that actually is Lloyd Sam's set piece service. A few of these goals have come off his corner kicks. Kemp has been the guy from the other side, and he's been pretty good as well. But maybe having a pair of consistent players providing set piece service has really helped Birnbaum just kind of take that next step and be more consistent in getting on the end of these.
So DC United, for some reason, plays at New York City FC on Thursday this week. They will have to do so without Steve Birnbaum, who's with the national team. Also, Jared Jeffrey is suspended.
No!
When Thomas is a Jared Jeffrey super fan, and I thought I might have to even console him the last game. He seemed pretty sad.
Yeah. Well, we won't get into that too much because, like I said at the outset, we have a jam-packed show. We have Dan Dickinson with us, and
Dan, let me ask you something, Dan. What do you want to talk about? Actually, you know what? Let's just all right. This seems like a good time to do this. Dan obviously is best known, I think, on this podcast for his sad stats. A quick explanation for those of you who haven't been listening since 2013.
It has been a while.
Yeah,
Jesus.
DC. I'm pretty sure we have two or three listeners who've literally been like on the stream since 2013. During DC United's historically bad campaign in 2013, Dan would chime in every few weeks with some what we call sad stats. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. They're just sad stats.
I mean, we had some doozies that year.
That was a historic year for awful statistics.
Yeah, a season with 3 wins tends to do that. Of course, the ultimate would be own goal ending up leading the team in goals at the end of the season, but there were so many more.
Yeah, Dan, I understand you've put together some sad stats for this year for us.
I have. They're not all DC United, unfortunately.
Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Hold on.
Please, I need the music.
There we go. Thank you, Spotify. All right, Dan.
All right.
Hit us with some MLS wide sad stats.
Well, I'll let you guys pick the teams. I've got one for each, and they're not all great.
Let's start with Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago. So, for all the talk of Chicago being a dumpster fire, they're actually the least bad worst team in the league this decade. They're on 0.92 PPG right now. Oh. Last year they finished at 0.88. Montreal in 2015.
These are positive stats.
No. They're not even good at being bad.
Actually, I said this to you, Pablo, how Chicago, all they're doing at this point is just messing up their chances of getting a higher draft pick. Yeah.
Let's go with the Houston Dynamo next.
Houston Dynamo. This wasn't very good because they've just been sort of lackluster, but strangely, Houston has not received a penalty kick all season.
Aww. Seth, you pick
sad.
one. Chivas USA.
Are they did they come back? Did I miss that?
Yeah.
Well, sort of. Will Ferrell's an owner now.
Dan,
it's gotten crazy.
You know about the 3rd and 4th New York teams, right? I'm just kidding.
Yes, I was aware of that.
All right, Dan, what do you have for DC United?
Well, unfortunately, I was going off of the one you mentioned earlier. 7 appearances, 449 minutes, and Patrick Mullins is your team leader in goals with 5.
It really is a sad stat.
I do expect Ben Olsen to give him a DP contract at the end of the season and totally kill his production in 2017.
Thomas.
Let's go with NYCFC.
Mixed Discarud, who is described on MLSsoccer.com as a smooth
walking
midfielder.
Sad stats. Mixed
Wait,
Discarud.
described as what?
Yeah.
He's a smooth midfielder? It's in his player bio, don't ask me. He has not seen the field since he captained the team against the Cosmos in the Open Cup. He has been on the bench just once since then. That was mid-June. And the one game he was on the bench was the one against Colorado, where basically everybody on the team was suspended. So Patrick Vieira didn't have much of a choice. I should add that Mixed Discarud has a base annual salary of $761,000, according to the Players Union.
Jesus Christ.
Now, to be fair, I don't think we can really criticize Discarud. Sometimes when you're on the same team as a Mikey Lopez, you just have to deal with being bumped on the depth chart.
All right.
New England Revolution.
Yeah.
They've been
The
awful.
Revolution are the only team in the league with a negative goal difference at home. They are -2.
Wow.
They also have the worst defense in the league, which I will continue to complain about because they've had a terrible backline for a year and a half now, and they've refused to address it.
and
Well, what
instead
about-
got Kai Kamara.
Yeah.
What about Toronto FC? I think the real
Toronto, I'm going to pick on Giovinco for a minute. He has somehow taken 162 shots in 26 games. Only a third of those were on frame, and only 16 of those ended up in the back of the net. So less than 1 out of every 10 shots is scoring for Toronto. But don't worry, he's totally going to win MVP again this year.
Got to
Damn
bench
it.
him.
I don't know. It's like my high school soccer coach told me, you miss 100% of the shots you take, Pablo. I don't think that's the way it goes.
90%. 90% of the shots.
Yeah.
How about your former beat New York Red Bulls?
Keeping in mind that they might actually break this, I will remind everyone that the Red Bulls have never advanced out of the group stage in the Champions League. And it's still mathematically possible for them to fall apart, so fingers crossed.
Let's go Western. Let's see.
I want
Seattle Sounders.
Seattle Sounders. So I was curious who the worst player in the league is. And so I pulled up WhoScored.com, which is a great statistical resource. And
Okay.
out of all the players with at least 10
I think I know.
appearances...
Wait, can I guess?
You can?
Is it Zachary Scott?
It's not. It's
Damn it.
Hercules Gomez. He has an average player rating of 6.19, which is the worst out of 296 players with 10 appearances or more.
He's the worst. You can't tell
That
me
is-
he's a
that is
worse
some
player
gold.
than Jason Hernandez.
He was pretty good for them in an Open Cup game. I
Well,
guess that doesn't
this
count.
was league only,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
He's also fucking Herc. All right, so he can do whatever he wants.
All right, Colorado Rapids.
Colorado
'Cause
Rapids.
I feel like even though they're-
the best goalkeeper in the league on goals against average is Zach McMath, who has a 0.69 and 6 shutouts, and he's going to keep that because I doubt he's going to play another game this year. Thanks, Tim Howard.
I am very tempted to now put Zach McMath on my goalkeeper of the year ballot.
Wow, nicely done. Who else? Let's see. Portland Timbers.
Portland Timbers. Merritt Paulson has deleted 20 tweets on Saturday morning.
Wait, how can you possibly keep track
like
of
deleted-
that?
So there is a
tweets.com.
site that the Timbers fans run called Tweet Bunker, which
Ah.
only exists to monitor Merritt's account and mark the ones he deleted
It's
in
incredible.
red.
Wow.
God, I love MLS.
Yeah, especially the Portland fans. All right, here's a team that has produced plenty of sad stats this season. Columbus.
Columbus. Kai Kamara, despite being traded in the middle of May, remains tied for second in the goal-scoring race in that team, and still has one more goal for Columbus than Higuain.
So bad. So bad.
Let's
And he's not even around to battle with Higuain for penalties anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Let's go with the Philadelphia Union.
I love this one. This summer transfer window was the first one since the summer of 2012 where the Union did not either acquire or transfer out a goalkeeper.
Oh
Okay,
my God.
that is impressive.
What other teams are? Orlando City FC.
Kyle Larin leads the league with 87 unsuccessful touches this season. Take that, Giassi Zardos.
Wow.
Well, Zardes was away for the Copa America.
Well, he'll catch up.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do like the average, like how bad those touches were, and then you extrapolate that in some formula, I'm
We need
pretty sure
expected bad touches.
Yeah, exactly. Zardas's were fewer but much worse.
So true story. My girlfriend asked once. She was like, "Is there an Opta stat that is completed passes, but you shouldn't have passed to that player in the first place because they're in a bad spot and they immediately give the ball away?" And I was like, "Why are you asking this? Like, is this a Giassi Zardes related question?" It was.
God.
All right,
Opta will start tracking bad decisions.
Vancouver. Have we done them yet?
Vancouver, the two longest scoreless streaks in MLS this season both belong to Vancouver. 407 minutes in July and 372 in March.
That is a good sad stat.
Los Angeles Galaxy.
The Los Angeles Galaxy are last in the league for shots, 17th in the league for shots on goal, 19th for corner kicks, and number 1 for complaining about statistics like these.
I mean, I'll tell you what they're number 1 at: successfully shooting Harambe.
I knew that was coming.
FC Dallas.
FC Dallas, top of the league in the standings table and bottom of the league for home attendance.
Oh.
13,880.
Wow,
for a
God,
game.
that's right. Guess who's second to last? DC United.
Yeah,
despite a much higher capacity than
Yeah.
most of the other teams.
Yeah.
We're a year and a half in, but I still forget that we don't have Buckshaw Stadium anymore to save the rest of the league from that embarrassment.
Yeah.
What teams haven't we done yet?
Real Salt Lake?
Real Salt Lake. Tweet by team account. DC United 34,000. Red Bulls 37,000. Portland 39,000. Seattle 42,000. LA 71,000. RSL 90,000 plus.
Jesus, RSL,
Well done, Trey.
RSL, the Jonathan Tannenwald of MLS Twitter accounts. sorry, Tannenwald. You just tweet a lot.
How about the San Jose Earthquakes team constructed by recently ousted GM John Doyle?
Stephen Lenhart has not started a match in over 2 years.
Oh my God, he's still on the
MLS
team?
Dylan
I
metrics
didn't
are
even know he
down
was still in the
across board.
league.
I remember seeing he was still on the team in preseason and was like, man, he's still on the team? And then I forgot about
Weirdly,
him.
they dropped him out of the media guide that they attached to the game notes. So he's still listed on the roster, but he doesn't have a player
Is this like
bio
a George
anymore.
John situation?
It might be.
Yeah. Sporting Kansas City.
Kansas City have lost as many games as Chicago and the Revs, but somehow are
Yeah.
in 5th place in the allegedly super tough Western Conference.
Get those wins. So who does that leave us with?
I'm looking through real quick. I think that might be... Oh, Montreal.
Right.
Since his hat trick against Philadelphia, Drogba is on a 429-minute scoreless streak.
Really thought you'd read that one in French.
I'm not Tannenwald. And I think that's everybody. Yeah.
And
Wow.
so no LAFC.
What do you need to say? They just broke ground, and they obviously have the biggest ownership group in MLS history. So
I mean, I think the DC United's sad stat might be that LAFC broke ground on their stadium before they did.
well, but remember
yeah.
they knocked over that trailer,
They
so
did
that sort of
knock
half
over
counts.
Right.
that shed.
One of the scariest moments of my life was looking up and seeing the wall of that thing come down as I ran away. Did not realize that
Almost killed by the mayor.
our mayor would take that so seriously. Give me that goddamn front loader! I killed it. Dan, that was that was surprisingly high quality sad stats.
Yeah,
for
like
everything.
I thought you would have put together something terrible based on your previous body of work.
The fact that you've been gone for so long. You know.
Pablo, could you hit the Thomas Floyd air horn?
Yeah, just
Well, to be honest, I don't have a
No,
that's the wrong one. Sorry,
that's the Jürgen Klinsmann.
sorry.
Fatality.
No, that's not it.
Finish him.
God damn it! Where is it? What's happening right now?
Do you just have,
It's called Dead Air, and it's wonderful.
do you just have this song on a loop?
Thomas Floyd.
Oh yeah, it gets me every time. Yeah. All right. So back to let's talk about some general MLS. Let's leave DC United behind here.
We have a couple Twitter questions, one of which is a general MLS topic. Maybe we should dive into that. What are your thoughts on Orlando SC? Has Jason Christ turned the corner?
It's really early to say that, man. You know, like
Come on, they're 2-2-2. They're good for the cup.
So they're,
Yeah, exactly.
I believe they are now 1 point back
are.
of DC United for the final playoff.
You know what?
spot.
I'll tell you this much. I like their chances better than DC's. Not saying a lot, but you know.
I like a lot about that team. I mean, Laren is an extremely dangerous striker. Kaká, when he's healthy, is still.
They're even getting good performances out of Nocerino.
Nocerino's been playing really well the last
with
few
that
weeks.
beard, that Abraham Lincoln beard.
And then defensively, I think Tommy Redding has kind of quietly developed himself into one of the most exciting defensive prospects in the U.S. national team pool this season. Joe Bendick wins Save of the Week every week for some reason. They've got some good players there, and if they can click, then that's the team I wouldn't want to face in the playoffs. I don't want to go up against Kaká in a one-off game with my season on the line.
Orlando and DC each have 8 games left, 2 of which are against each other. So,
Oh man,
yeah, could determine the 6th and final playoff spot in the East.
Anyways, moving on.
You guys might like
the other
that.
question, we'll venture into a little hashtag USWNT.
Oh God, here we
Well,
go. All right,
I
Thomas.
think this might be a topic you guys would have opinions on as well.
Okay.
Your thoughts on Hope Solo getting suspended by U.S. Soccer?
Yeah, I mean, my this is purely my opinion, but I think it's fucking ridiculous. 6 months suspension. I understand that it's obviously
They said it was cumulative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. But
Yeah.
I understand that they don't play very many games. Obviously, in the next
Right.
6 months.
And you know how many competitive games they have?
0.
And you could say that over the next 2 years,
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, I just think I do think it's outrageous. I mean, I didn't even think what she said was that bad. If we're being honest,
I think U.S. Soccer comes off looking a little ridiculous in this situation because they put up with her crap for so long while she was still good,
And
now
they had competitive games to play.
and
Yeah.
and now once they don't have competitive games left, and Hope Solo is showing signs of aging and not being as good as she used to be. Now they can finally take a moral stand.
Well, this is
on
Right.
is
Hope
obviously
Solo.
totally speculative too, but I mean, I think you could very easily make an argument, and some people are, that this is sort of a bit of retribution for equal pay stance.
Right.
I don't think that's a stretch. I know. I mean, I think it's a. I don't think this is like a jet fuel can't melt steel beams style conspiracy. I think there might actually be something to this one.
Here's my thought process. If you have a player who is doing stuff off the field that is harming your program, you can just stop calling her in. That's what you see happen with tons of national teams. That for as far as we know, that's why Benny Feilhaber stopped getting national team call-ups, because Klinsmann and him didn't mesh. That's why Samir Nasri stopped getting France call-ups. It happens all across the soccer world. So just, I actually agree. It seems like it's the right time to move on. There's a decline in the on-the-field play. A lot of off-the-field stuff has become a big distraction. She really dominated the narrative in Rio in a way that was not positive for the U.S. team. And considering all of these things, considering she'll be, pretty up there in age by the time the 2019 World Cup rolls around, give Ashlyn Harris and Alyssa Nair a chance in goal. But suspending her, and I assume this has to do with the fact that the women's national team, they have contracts with U.S. Soccer. Her contract was terminated as a part of this punishment. I'm guessing that's the main catalyst behind it being a suspension as opposed to just removing her from the picture.
Is she still just indefinitely inactive with the rain too?
Well, she sat out one game, so we'll see. I mean, it could be short term, it could be
But
longer.
Thomas,
It sounded like Seth had a real question. Is this going to be Connect Hope Solo to
Jurgen Klinsmann, but as a player?
Well, Jurgen Klinsmann played for DC United in a one-off charity game.
God damn it, that fucking post 9/11 game.
With Ben Olsen, who coached with Pat Onstad, who played for the Rochester Rhinos.
Dan, do you have a player for Thomas?
Give me a couple minutes, because I was not ready for this.
Okay.
okay, I got one.
Okay.
Kevin Bacon.
Wow.
Okay.
I think you could do this.
Well, I need the Connect.
Get to Stallone.
Get the Stallone.
Well, because then you get to Pelé.
But that'll take a while. And then I forget how I got from Pelé to the Rhinos to begin with. Can we connect Kevin Bacon to Andrew Shue?
I mean, I'm sure you can.
This is a difficult one.
You want to phone a friend, Thomas?
Is that friend you, Dan?
Yes, because I've just been Googling.
Oh, okay.
Given that I have no idea the rules of this game, and I figured this is totally silly, if you Google Kevin Bacon soccer, the second and third things that come up, Aaron Johansson, because apparently somebody once told him he looks
exactly
a lot like Kevin Bacon.
Okay, there we go.
That's a stretch.
So Kevin Bacon looks like Aaron Johansson.
All right, go from there. That's easy.
Yeah, Aaron Johansson played on the U.S. national team with Tim Howard, who played with Ricardo Clark, who played with Alex Dixon, who played for the Rochester Rhinos.
Dan hasn't been listening to the show recently. This game is called 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhinos.
No, I got it, but
Oh, okay.
but now I have one.
All right, hold on a second. We got to.
Shep Messing.
Well,
I can do this, but
it depends on how liberal the definition is. Like, Shep Messing is
As
the
a player. As a player.
Yeah, I
come on, man.
who were his contemporaries?
Dude, I mean, you can easily do so. Go from Pelé to John. No, let's see. All right, Beckenbauer. You should be able to do Beckenbauer. He played with him.
So okay, so Beckenbauer. I think we did this one before.
I can get
It's
you.
like,
I can get you an MLS right now. Not the league, but I can get you there in this game.
You should be able to go from Beckenbauer.
yeah, Beckenbauer's an executive at Bayern with Jurgen Klinsmann. and then
Beckenbauer coached Klinsmann on the German national
Yeah,
team
there
as
you
well.
go.
How about
Yeah.
Shep Messing's coach at the New York Cosmos was Eddie Fermani, who coached the New York City Metro Stars for half of the 1996 season. So I got you there.
Right.
Can you go
Who was on
Tony Miola?
Tony Miola? Okay. So Tony Miola played with.
Really, Thomas?
Well, no, I'm just trying to think of the most streamlined way to do it.
I mean, Lawless, Eddie Pope.
Right.
You know, Eddie Pope. There you go. You should be able to get from there.
Well, I'm trying to go through. Let's see. Well, Tony Miola played with Tim Howard. Like, they were contemporaries in the early 2000s, and now Howard played with Ricardo Clark, who played with Alex Dixon.
All right, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Should we get into a little bit of U.S. national team stuff?
Yeah, we
Men's
should.
national team?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dan, feel free to just hang up whenever you want, by the way.
I will. Don't worry.
Okay. So U.S. has their final 2 semifinal round games of World Cup qualifying coming up Friday at St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then when did they play Trinidad? Is it Tuesday?
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, next Tuesday. So the roster played out pretty much as we would have expected. A few little quibbles here and there. I guess the main headlines are Clint Dempsey and Gyasi Zardes are out. Dempsey with an irregular heartbeat. Zardes has some sort of an injury. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
He's injured. And then
Maybe the concrete in his right foot is cracked. I don't know. Anyways.
okay, so he needed a fresh
Actually,
layer of
enjoyed that
concrete.
one.
Yeah. And then
Sorry,
today,
I said that so spiteful.
John Brooks, as he has been many times in the past, was removed from the roster with an injury.
He has still never played in a World Cup qualifier.
Which seems crazy. And then for some reason, instead of another defender, Sasha Kljestan was brought in. An interesting move. We've been talking about him in recent weeks as a guy who, despite how well he's been playing in MLS, seems to just not be on Klinsmann's radar, where this is clear evidence that he has been on Klinsmann's radar. Why was Kljestan brought in this fashion, though, as an injury replacement instead of originally?
Obviously, he's going to play center back.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of that? That should be the first thing that comes to mind.
I don't have a.
Moderita's in. Wide open. One up.
Sorry.
ESPN autoplay.
100% ESPN FC autoplay
Hey, it's
video.
been crazy with school being back, so we are constantly going over our
Should we
data
just
limit.
listen to it?
Listen.
And there it is.
So I don't have any sort of specific answer to this, but we've all noticed this, that Klinsmann seems to, even though he has, in this case, literally months to watch the players and think about the roster for the next games, he'll still second guess himself and, release the initial roster, and then a day or two later just bring in someone who you can't really figure out why they weren't brought in the first place. So with Kljestan, I mean, yeah, the fact that he's replacing a center back is a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, they do have enough center backs. They initially called in almost a laughable number of center backs, but it's a little odd that if Klinsmann was monitoring Kljestan and pleased with his play, that it took him until this point to decide to bring him in. Maybe Jermaine Jones isn't as far along as Klinsmann would have hoped. He hasn't played in a couple months now, right? So having him called in is, maybe it's just kind of hopeful that he'll be able to see minutes. And either way, Kljestan, I think he's a guy who could make a difference for the national team. He turns 31 in a few days, actually, or early September. So he is around the same age as guys like Brad Davis and Chris Wondolowski and Kyle Beckerman were last cycle, and they all made a first World Cup team despite being in their early 30s.
And two of those guys you just named are still involved in this cycle.
Yes, they are.
Dan, I'm sure you've at least checked in on the Red Bulls this year. What have you made of Kljestan? I think in the DC game, I was pretty impressed at sort of his his ability to sort of fill Dax's shoes from a leadership perspective. These past few games.
I mean, I'm impressed at how much production he's gotten. I haven't gotten to watch as many Red Bulls games on TV as I probably should have, but those numbers are impressive. There's sort of a running gag with some of the Red Bulls community that there's a outspoken fan on Twitter who inevitably every year will complain, when is this team going to hire a real creative number 10? And I think he hasn't asked for one in about 2 months. So that's like a real testament to how well Sasha's doing. I'm convinced that Klinsmann went to Orlando NYCFC last night because he thought he was going to see Kljestan play, because he had confused the New York teams. That joke didn't work.
I got it.
No, I'm going to explain it for the people at home.
Right.
All three of them. He's. I watched Matt Doyle's video that he threw up last night, and he's making the right runs and he can find the right pass, and I'm glad to see him get a shake. I think he was probably in the same bucket as Benny Feilhaber was, in that I think there was probably some personality clashes the last cycle that Jurgen had called him in for, and that got him off the list for a while. But good to see it sort of swapped.
With Kljestan, he's a guy who I think actually has also improved the last couple of years. I'd say guys like Wando and Brad Davis, they were playing at a high level for a long time. It just took a while, took for the right situation for them to break through with the national team. I think Kljestan, when he got caps late in the last cycle, his most recent caps, he seemed to be pretty disappointing with the national team. He just squandered a lot of opportunities. But I think since then, playing for the Red Bulls, playing in a system that requires a higher work ethic and more defensive play, that he's become more of a complete player and more of a guy who is equipped to contribute on the national team level.
Yeah, I would agree. And for whatever it's worth, Ives just tweeted out that Giassi Zardes' injury is a broken foot.
Ooh.
He could miss the rest of 2016.
So, Pablo, were you right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he probably got it trapping the ball. Anyway.
So the U.S. plays St. Vincent and the Grenadines away on Friday. At the same time, Guatemala is playing Trinidad and Tobago. If the U.S. wins and if Trinidad wins, then the U.S. will automatically qualify for the Hex, making that final game against Trinidad kind of meaningless. Here's a question for you guys. Are we going to be surprised at all if the U.S. struggles against St. Vincent and the Grenadines? I mean, this is a team that's basically semi-pro. At the same time, the U.S. did go down 1-0 to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
That was like one of the happiest moments of our life.
In the reverse fixture, of course, they came back and won like 5-1. But then also, Trinidad, who is a far superior team to St. Vincent, went down there in the last round of games and really struggled. They eventually got a result, but I believe it was like a 4-3 win.
Yeah.
Maybe 5-3.
Back and forth game, yeah.
And then, of course, we go back to the last qualifying cycle where the U.S. had a similar game against Antigua and Barbuda away and needed a last-minute piece of magic between Alan Gordon and Eddie Johnson to get them a win.
Am I the only one who is mildly surprised that Alan Gordon wasn't called in for this game?
I mean,
I don't put anything but
Wando keeps getting called in.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I had a good Wando meme idea, which is a split screen. One of them is a freeze frame of his miss against Belgium, and the other is a freeze frame of him celebrating, and it just says, "Get you a man who can do both." I don't know, thoughts?
I like the one where you were
Not
like,
a lot of laughter. All right.
My favorite one that you did was like you versus
the guy she
tells you not to worry about,
Yeah.
and you is Wando, and the guy she tells you not to worry about is Javinko.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So would we be surprised if the U.S. struggles at St. Vincent?
I would not be. I mean, they should win convincingly. They'll have no Michael Bradley, no Clint Dempsey, probably no Jermaine Jones. Michael Orozco, I'm pretty sure, is suspended from the Copa third place game, red card.
Otherwise, he definitely would start somewhere.
Right.
Let's
so
be
that's
honest.
pretty devastating.
He would be the captain.
No Zardes.
Well, Josie's been named the captain, which
he has
indicates he will definitely start. Not sure what that means for Bobby Wood.
I assume we'll see the two of them together up top, especially now that Zardes is out of the picture as well. I wonder if this will be the game that we see Darlington Nagbe get a chance, or if they just go for the old faithful Beckerman. Or I guess even then, if Jones is out, maybe it could be Beckerman, Nagbe in the middle. It's going to be a weekend lineup for sure, but the U.S., even if they're playing a weekend lineup on a terrible field, which I haven't seen the field. I don't know if it's bad of me to just assume it's terrible, but it is St. Vincent, the Grenadines.
Racist. You're a racist.
So we'll see, but I don't think anyone would be overly shocked if this ends up being a game the U.S. has to grind out, and there are some tense moments.
Let's move on to MLS stuff. I actually didn't know this. Did this news just break today? The Galaxy are trying to move Nigel de Jong?
Yeah, so that was reported by Goal.com's Ivis Galarsa.
Really?
And also some Turkish outlets, right?
Such as Goal Turkey.
Yes. And then also it's also being reported on by the LA Times as Kevin Baxter. So basically
It's crazy. I've never heard an autoplay video in Turkish. Maybe I'll go to that website.
The Galaxy are trying to get rid of Nigel de Jong, and it looks like he is on his way to Galatasaray.
That's the part I was surprised by. They're trying to get rid of him immediately.
Why? He's been really good for them this year.
So the rationale apparently.
I mean, aside
is
from the fact that he's a murderer,
he
killed Harambe, dude.
He's a murderer.
Dude, this is about Harambe.
Oh my God, they're trying to
They're trying to move him because he killed
him
Harambe.
What are the extradition laws between U.S. and Turkey, I wonder?
I don't know. Anything's possible with guerrilla law, dude.
Yeah.
I don't.
So the rationale, aside from, see you, Pablo. The rationale outside of the obvious Harambe connections is that de Jong has a clause in his contract where he plays a certain amount of games this season, and the number of games is unknown, but if he hits that clause, then he apparently gets on a guaranteed DP deal for the next 2 seasons.
This has been known all season. I remember seeing that in preseason because there was lots of talk about how did the Galaxy pull off these roster gymnastics that allowed them to add Nigel de Jong and Ashley Cole, basically 2 more DPs, and still not go over the limit. It was because the plan all along has been they're signing de Jong. He's agreeing to play for a really cheap salary for a player of his caliber for this season, and then he has this automatic option for next year when he would presumably replace retiring Steven Gerrard as a DP. But I mean, I feel like this was kind of obvious from the beginning of the year. Is Nigel de Jong really a Galaxy-esque DP you want to use a slot on? Just a sturdy defensive midfielder? The Galaxy, I mean, their DPs have always been, I guess they spent a slot on a center back, Omar Gonzalez, for a while. But aside from that, I mean, they go splashy attacking players. Gio Dos Santos, Robbie Keane, Landon Donovan, David Beckham.
Right. And the other...
Steven Gerrard was none of that list.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, and they're probably losing Gerrard, who's a DP at the end of this season. But if they kept de Jong around, then that would be their 3 DPs sorted, presuming they keep Robbie Keane as well, because you have Keane, Gerrard, and Dos Santos as your DPs. And I think the Galaxy want a little more wiggle room with that last DP spot to be able to bring in a big name, especially considering in a couple years they're going to have competition in LAFC, who also are presumably going to be trying to sign some big names and throwing out big money.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the only part of it that really is surprising to me is the timing, that it took them until this point in the season with the Turkish transfer window closing, with the MLS transfer window already closed, so they can't replace De Jong unless they find a free agent. So now they're just going to go into the stretch run with this big void in defensive midfield, paging Baggio Husidic.
Well, I did see Taylor Twellman throw this out there on Twitter today that they were trying to line up Matthew Flemini as a replacement.
He's really bad.
He's also a free agent,
right?
Which is the only type of player the Galaxy can add at this point in the season.
I mean, in reality, I guess that would be a pretty good stopgap. I mean, he really struggled the last year or two with Arsenal, but that's a different level.
Yeah,
he's a guy you figure. Yeah, if you're losing one of the top D mids in the league, and you can replace him with a guy of Flamini's pedigree, on short notice, then that's not too bad.
Yeah,
you could do worse.
It's still tough for the Galaxy to be, getting rid of one of their more important players. Zardes is hurt now. Van Damme is out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Get used to Leonardo. Again,
yeah, I haven't seen
old friends.
What about TFC? What do we make of? I mean, obviously, it's amazing how quickly things change in MLS. I mean, just last week, you're basically saying there's nobody that can stop TFC the way they're playing, their roster, and now we learned that they're going to be missing Giovinco for upwards of a month,
and they fresh off a loss at home to their biggest rival, who only had 10 men for half the game.
And who had just lost at home to the Chicago Fire.
Yes.
It's like the most MLS series of sentences in history.
Also, they lose Jay Chapman,
yep.
Who's been a quietly key contributor to them this year.
And Ashton Morgan, who's played soccer for them occasionally.
Who's on the roster.
And also soccer player Ashton Morgan.
Yeah, it's tough for Toronto. We'll see what this race for the top spot in the Eastern Conference ends up looking like. I wouldn't count out the Red Bulls or the Union at this point. They are both only 3 points out of first place. Like, it has gotten very congested. With Toronto missing Giovinco, you figure there'll be a little bit of a slide. NYCFC continues to play Jefferson Mina, which doesn't bode well for
Jason
them.
Hernandez.
So any number of defenders.
Yeah, so Red Bulls and Union, especially, I'm pretty high on the Union at this point. They are coming off a 2-week win, 2-win week. I got that backward. Yeah. And they added Alejandro Bedoya. They finally have Joshua Yarrow back in the starting lineup, which I think is really key because Ken Tribbett really had been struggling over the last month or two. Maurice Adu, I think, is finally coming back somewhat soon.
Forgot about him.
So you get him in the mix. You partner him with Bedoya in midfield, or maybe use him to anchor that back line. And it's a team that I think could sneak up there, get one of the higher seeds in the Eastern Conference, and suddenly be a team that you would not want to face in the postseason.
Guys,
I just showed Seth a picture of somebody wearing a U.S. national team jersey, number 69, name Harambe. This world is going to shit.
I saw another personalized jersey. I forget which sport it was, but it was also
White Sox.
It was also Harambe 69.
It was the guy who ran onto the field at the White Sox game.
Really?
Yeah. It was a pitch invader.
Why didn't he make it a Reds game? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Also, update to our talk about the Cincinnati Zoo social media accounts. They have shuttered all of them now.
Really?
Within hours of our last show.
Yeah, just too much Harambe abuse. Unbelievable.
We were just talking about how the social media guy deserved a raise for the engagement he was getting, and now he's probably out of a job.
And also, before we finish tonight, we did get an update on the Israeli League from Dan Carell. We got a voicemail.
Oh, yeah.
We called him out on the show recently for not telling us about Michael Seaton signing with a team in the second division in Israel.
He took us seriously for some reason. But I don't have it pulled up. I'll pull it up here in a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Also, someone tweeted at me to.
We can't not talk about Seattle-Portland, by the way.
Well, this is more important.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
He's still there.
Dan just wants to go.
At AlexJS85 informed me that Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth Shue were in that Invisible Man movie, dude.
Oh, and there you go.
And then,
they're brothers, right?
So then that gets us to the early LA Galaxy with
Kobe
Jones.
So you got to really do
And
this
then-
though.
Oh, so you
Bacon
get
to
Siggy
Shue Bacon to Elizabeth Shue to Andrew Shue. That's already 3.
Right.
Yeah, so you got. Hold on a second. Hold on. Sorry.
Let's see. I was wondering what you were doing. So then Kobe Jones played with Andrew Shue. And now,
Yeah, you're still not. I mean, I don't think you're any closer there.
Well, this gets me to more
2002 World Cup team or something.
Right, exactly. Who played with? Let's see. Let me.
30 seconds.
Okay, that was much more time than I anticipated. Let's see.
I got one.
20 seconds.
Kobe Jones played with. Oh, I might run out with Ernie Stewart, who played with Ben Olsen, Pat Onstad. Is that too many?
Yep.
But Kobe Jones played with Ben Olsen.
Kobe. Oh, right. Well, yeah. When Olsen was young and injured a lot, but yeah, they got a few caps together. There you go.
That was my.
All right, so
that was mine.
That cut the one extra I had, so now that's 6, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't be helping him.
Well, there's a lot of pressure here.
Well, he pretty much had it. Okay. Did you get the Israeli Premier League update from Dan Carell? Americans abroad, only in Israel, and not all Americans.
Also,
by the way, an Open Wide for Some Soccer exclusive. We should be saying Dan Carell's Israeli Premier League updates.
Yeah.
Is it still the? I think it's something else now. I don't think it's called
IPL.
I don't know. Let's see here.
I also just realized that my new technique for actors is going to be to link them all through actors in the Entourage movie with Thierry Henry. I think that's.
Hey boys, this is Dan Carell. Can't call in tonight, but figured I'd leave you a message with your weekly Israel soccer update. Your boy Michael Seaton had his first goal for Hapoel Ramat Gan Givatayim in a 2-0 win over Beitar Tel Aviv Ramla last Friday. Scored the second goal. Israel Rosh scored the first. And looks like he's settling in pretty well in a new country, new language. But he seems to be doing well. Scored his first goal. And Aaron Schoenfeld went scoreless playing against the Israeli champions, Hapoel Be'er Sheva, last Saturday night. And perhaps surprisingly was not called up by Jurgen Klinsmann to play left back or right midfield or something, despite all of great goal scoring that he had last year, 8 goals in 12 games. Now he's sort of back to square one, but we'll see once he gets off the mark again, as they say in England. All right, thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Dan Carell.
Thanks, Dan Carell. I also appreciate his commitment to the correct pronunciation of the names in Hebrew.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy that a lot, frankly.
That could be the new fan favorite of our show, right up there with 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhino is
Israeli soccer update.
Israeli soccer update with Dan Carell.
You know how I imagined him. Maybe I don't know if you're too young for this or not, but remember when Al Franken was on SNL doing the Iraq War updates? He had a satellite dish taped to his head, his helmet. I for some reason imagine Dan Carell doing that.
Please Photoshop that.
Yeah, I will.
And whenever the Israeli soccer update segment comes on our show, just post that Photoshop.
Yeah. Dan, did you watch Portland Seattle?
About half of it, yeah.
The first half, I take it.
A little bit of the first half and most of the second.
Yeah, an absolute bloodbath in the first half. Portland
it was
laying 4 in half an hour on Seattle.
It was really disappointing. It seemed like the comeback was really happening. I mean, 4-0 at halftime, and then within 5 minutes of the second half, Seattle had it down to 4-2. You were like, oh my God, this is happening, and then just sort of fizzled out.
Sidebar, how did we get John Champion on MLS games, and how do we make sure that he never leaves?
And also, I just thought he had like a little stint in the U.S. calling ICC games. Then they got some MLS and Open Cup while he was there. He was in England calling UK or Premier League games, and then he was all the way in Portland, went on whatever flight that is, probably like 14 hours or something, to call this game. So
he is so good.
Yeah. If they get him on MLS Cup, man, I mean, I guess I won't care because I'll probably be there.
Unfortunately, I think it's on FS1 this year. So
so we're getting John Strong and
Alexi Lalas.
John Strong's great, but he's also just garbage compared to. No, I'm kidding. He's great.
You looked legitimately disgusted when I said John Strong. No. I said John Strong, and you went, oh, and then you stopped.
No, John Strong's fantastic.
Yeah, I like him a lot too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, speaking of the narrative changing with a team in a week, we have that with Toronto FC. Now it seems like that happened with Seattle as well.
And Portland.
For Seattle, not only did they lose the game, but now Clint Dempsey is out indefinitely with a regular heartbeat. So it's now looking more like a long shot for Seattle to make the playoffs, where, before last week it looked like they were a good bet to do so.
Having Roman Torres back, even in the 45 minutes we saw, you could tell the quality brings to their back line, allows them to push Evans out to right back or maybe into midfield wherever they need them, and that helps a lot. So I wouldn't completely count them out, but yeah, they need Dempsey back.
I think we have a lock, by the way, for own goal of the year, Steven Taylor.
It wasn't even ruled an own goal. They
changed it.
Did they?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
It was still. I checked this morning, and they still had it ruled as
really?
Ivanchit's goal.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't really Taylor's fault, though.
Dude, he intentionally tried to redirect it with his head out of bounds and went in the goal.
Yeah, well,
he also scored an own goal in his debut for Timbers 2, like a few weeks ago. So
Jesus,
that's his second own goal at the club.
Thomas Floyd.
I wonder if he's the first. I'm sure he's the first ever MLS player to score a goal in USL and MLS, an own goal in
USL, yeah,
and MLS in one season. I don't know.
I'm gonna look that up.
Please don't. We got anything else, Dan? Did we miss anything you wanted to talk about? Anything at all? Anything?
How's the food scene in DC?
They had Chick-fil-A this past weekend. You missed it, Seth.
Apparently,
I did say DC and not RFK.
What?
The food scene.
Apparently the food scene in DC is better than New York. Have you guys heard this?
Yeah.
It's got some sort of all these horrible restaurants that are forcing longtime residents out of my neighborhood apparently are winning awards.
I just saw the news. DC has better food than New York. Yep.
I don't know if you guys...
It's been confirmed.
I may have mentioned this already, but we are getting a Wahlburgers here in Arlington. Pretty amped.
Are you serious?
I mean, we are getting a Wahlburgers, but
just stop. Have you ever had a Wahlburger, or are you just
no. I just want to meet Donnie.
I don't think it's going to happen there.
Wait, what's Wahlburgers?
It's a show on Bravo, I think, but it's like Mark, Donnie Wahlberg, all the Wahlbergs. They own a chain of. God, this show has gone off the rails.
Oh, wow.
I don't give a shit about it.
Seth, you can come to the opening. We can chase Donnie's autograph together.
Have you ever been at Shake Shack and been like, this burger's really good, but I wish it was made by one of the Wahlbergs?
I have actually thought that a few times.
You know what this burger's missing? Like a former New Kids on the Block member.
Yeah. Listen, if Mark's at the grand opening, I'll consider it, but...
I'm not going there for Donnie.
I'm not going all the way to Arlington for Donnie. I only come to Arlington for this podcast.
Yeah. God.
All right, let's
wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Thank you to Dan Dickinson for coming out of retirement. Guys, thank you for listening. Thanks to Dan Carell for the Israeli update. Talk to you guys next week.
R.I.P. Harambe.